want to take a look at our jar here. We are finally starting to see some calming happening, but I want to show you a lot of great calming strategies we can use that are most effective if we can nip it in the bud and catch that sensory stress response very early and start applying the calming really early at the very first signs of distress or sensory overload. We want to start applying that calming because that's when it can have the greatest effect. So we aren't getting so many of those stress response chemicals in, but actually we're getting calming in instead. So one way we can do that as we talk is to reduce sensory stimulation. We can use less words, speak softly. Also, slow rocking and slow swinging can be really helpful. Just a glider or a rocking chair or holding a person and just doing that gentle, slow rocking. A playground swing can be used to do slow, gentle swinging. Another thing is blowing. Blowing can help calm our nervous system. And it's really amazing because blowing actually stimulates our vagus nerve that runs from our brain all the way down the center of our body, touching almost all of our major organs. And if we can stimulate that vagus nerve, it's almost like a little reboot of our computer, and it helps us to stop all of these responses and calm down, especially if we catch it at the very early beginning signs of that neurological stress response. So I want to show you some ways that we can incorporate blowing into some calming. So this is called a bubble bear, and I got him off the internet, and he's just really fun because you just do some very gentle squeezing. It makes it come up, and you can practice that slow blowing and breathing, which will stimulate that vagus nerve and help us with our calming. And you can see this calming is actually starting to have an effect on our neurological system here. We're starting to get rid of some of that red finally. Another fun way to do calming with blowing is to have a party blower. Who doesn't love a good party blower? I like the kind that don't make noise because we're trying to reduce that sensory stimulation and noise. But just that blowing can really help with calming. Another fun thing to do is to make a bunny blower. And so I have seen adults and children both like bunny blowers. What you do is you just take a cotton ball and you just pull up his little ears like this, and you can make your bunny look however you want. I'm going to make my bunny have some little fluffy ears on the top. And so now I have a little bunny, and I'm going to put him in the palm of my hand, and I'm going to take a straw, and I'm going to take a big breath in to try to pick up my bunny, and then I'm going to puff out and try to blow him out. So here we go. And then it's really fun if you can catch them. But that is a great way to do controlled breathing, which is really calming. And then we also have that blowing, which is helpful with the straw. And now you could also play with feathers and work on blowing feathers around the room, or just any kind of bubbles, obviously, are really wonderful for calming. We can also use pinwheels for blowing and breathing exercises, which can really help with calming. Another thing that is wonderful for calming is heavy pressure. This is a weighted wrap. It weighs about 5 or 6 pounds. I actually have an entire video series on how to use simple sensory tools in the church, and it goes over the details of using a weighted wrap and a lot of these other sensory tools I'm going to be showing you today. I really encourage you to go to our website, overcomerministries.com. You can watch those videos for free and get that training on how to use all these different sensory tools in your church environment. But a weighted wrap, a weighted toy, a weighted blanket, a weighted lap pad, Any kind of weighted item or heavy pressure is actually extremely calming, and it literally brings in some of that serotonin and dopamine, which are the calming chemicals. And so weighted items or heavy pressure release serotonin and dopamine into our system to help counteract that adrenaline and cortisol that is being released when we are under stress or fear or overstimulation. So weighted items help stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system and can help reduce all of that stress, and it helps calm our system down. And the way you can use a weighted item is on top of the head, actually is really helpful, or on the shoulders, or on the back, or on their lap. All of those ways to get heavy pressure can really be helpful for calming. Another great way to calm is squeezing. So squeezing things like this spiky, bendy loop can be really helpful for calming. Also, a gel ball or any kind of fidget where you can squeeze really hard can be very helpful for calming. Stretching your body and just reaching to the sky or doing any kind of stretching can help with calming. Also, cold. This is a little cold pack I just got, super cheap. This can be great if you can apply cold, and I would let them do it to themselves, but to your forehead, cheeks, neck, upper chest, all of those areas that are right in line with the vagus nerve like we talked about. If you apply cold to those areas, they can also help stimulate that vagus nerve. This is one that has some gel beads in it, so it's also kind of a nice feel to it, but you want them to be super cold. Also, an icy cold drink going down the throat can help stimulate that vagus nerve as well. Another fun way to stimulate the vagus nerve, which helps with calming, is to use a kazoo. So humming or singing softly can also help stimulate that vagus nerve, which helps with calming and give us a little reboot to our system. Another thing we can do is teach self-regulation and control strategies. So we can do things like learn different self-regulation. A lot of people actually have to learn how to self-regulate. This is a little book that I wrote just to help people learn how to use different sensory tools so they know which ones work best for them. And it's called Control is My Goal. It's available for free for download on my website, overcomerministries.com, or you can buy the print version if you would like. But it just goes through some of these simple sensory tools to learn how to self-regulate. We also want to recognize some of those early signs of overstimulation so that we can stop it before it gets any worse. So if you see signs of anxiety, irritability, the urge to just flee and get out of there, if they're running for the door, if they're hiding, if they're panicked or fearful, distressed, suddenly very hyper or wound up, or suddenly extremely tired and go to sleep, if they're covering their head or their eyes or their ears to block out the different sensory overload, those are signs that we might want to apply some of these calming strategies and some of these self-control strategies to help bring that stress response down. We can also use controlled breathing exercises, and this Hoberman sphere is really helpful for that because it can help give a really nice visual of how to do those big diaphragmatic belly breaths. So we want to take a big breath in through our nose, and we're going to go like this, and then breathe out. We want to breathe in through our nose and fill up our lungs and our belly, and then breathe out through our mouth. So let's try that again. That's another great control strategy that people can learn. You can also do scripture breathing, which is using some simple verse. I like this one because it happens to rhyme if you use the King James Version. When I am afraid, I will trust in thee. Psalms 56:3. So it's a fun little verse that rhymes. And what I like to do is breathe in and think about the first part, and then breathe out and think about the second part. So I might do something like this. When I am afraid, I will trust in thee. Psalms 56:3. That can be really helpful. Another thing is just different breathing exercises. There's breathing apps available. There's so many different breathing exercises that you can do and learn that will help with control and calming. Another thing that is really helpful is to keep a note, keep a record of what is overstimulating someone, what is causing those drips of adrenaline and cortisol, what is triggering that person, and help them to prepare for it in advance with a social story, or to avoid an area, or even provide a sensory tool. For example, we can have headphones in the foyer of the church so people can just grab them before they go into worship, or have them available outside of the classrooms for the children or adults to be able to go in and grab before they go into a noisy classroom. We can also bring focus to something pleasant, either in their own mind, imagining something that they love or a place they like to go, or even something like this bubble timer is really relaxing and pleasing to watch. And we could use nature videos or different things that you know that they enjoy watching, and that can also help bring down that neurological stress response.